Little bump. Look at that little thing. What caused that? We'll come back to that. Oh man. Look at this thing. What is that?
Oh, I forgot. He's got to replace this windshield. This thing's spreading. So I'm not gonna put a sealant on here. There's no point. Okay, I forgot about that. That little guy. So that happened maybe first week or two of ownership. I mean, pretty pretty soon, and it's spreading. All right, so off camera, I finished the polishing. I wiped the car down, and we're getting ready to deal with the paint. So I did the wheels and the trim separate. All right, next step, we're gonna start doing mows. I put infinite on the wheels and the plastic moldings because I only have a 30 ml bottles of Mo's, and I was worried about running out. So I keep any leftover stock from prior cars, and that stuff, those partial bottles work great for, that type of wheels and accent pieces, whatnot. And this way, I don't have to worry about running out. But it's hot out, or it's humid outside. Trying to get this garage cooled off has been a challenge. I should have just ran it overnight. When you turn it off and then the garage warms up overnight, like everything just heat soaks, the cabinets, everything. So it takes too long to cool it off. But it took a couple hours today. It's fine now. All right, so this is another neighbor's car. I got a bit of a monopoly going on in my neighborhood. And in all fairness, there's 587 houses in our neighborhood. I've maybe done, 1%, 6 people. I've maybe done 2% of the cars, not many, despite it may be looking like all I do are my neighbor's cars. And I'm okay with that though, right? I know these people, it's an easy transaction. But this is Tim's wife's new car. They bought it, I think they took delivery like 2 weeks ago. They keep popping out these babies and want bigger cars. But this replaced a 4Runner. Keep it in the Toyota family. Now Tim, I met Tim, years ago when we first moved to Charlotte. We had we still had pretty similar backgrounds and stuff. As far as working in finance, we both had S4s at the time. Both were silver. We both were detailing on the side. I don't think Tim's taken a detailing client in a while, but he was doing mobile work for a while, or for years. That's how I think we initially met. It was just that common side hustle, Audi stuff. Tim could easily handle this job. He doesn't have a machine. He doesn't polish cars. He could have bought one. Or, I could even lend him machines, but I don't know. He didn't sound too interested in doing it himself, so here we are. And I get it. Certain jobs, you just want to farm out and get them done. Which is kind of where I'm leaning. This is the Mo's package, right? So retail price for this package is $1,000. I did cut Tim a little break because I just did the wheel faces. I'm not touching the interior. And I gave him a bit of a buddy discount. Knocked him $100 off. I keep thinking about this package, and definitely next year, maybe sooner, but I'm going to take it off menu, and then I'll do it for folks that are in the know, probably repeat clients that have done it before. I'll probably keep it there, but I think it'll allow me to, slow the cars down a little bit more, and then just do the bigger jobs. Because ideally I want to get to, max 2 cars a month, maybe even just 1. Mainly because work is taking more, space in my brain. And I don't want to be thinking about all these cars. We were talking last week. My boss is trying to get more head count. So we have one open rep today. He's trying to get 2 more, and then that means I have to go back to managing people. I haven't managed people in 6 years. That's not something I like to do, but I don't know. I'm an SVP with no directs, which is fairly common at the bank I work for, but we would bring on more entry-level analysts that would help free me up, because I still spend probably too much time doing monkey work. It's a very expensive person to, format PowerPoints for presentations. Seems like we do a lot of that lately. A bigger part is the story, the commentary, what's going on, but a time-consuming function is getting slides together, pulling data. That said, if you know anyone looking for a job, we have an open requisite for a data scientist role. This is a relatively junior role. It is a quantitative analyst role. The ideal hire, what they're looking for is, PhD with 4 years experience, MS with 6 years. They're pretty strict on the education requirements. Obviously, modeling experience, financial services experience, but we've had this job open now for a couple months, and 0. They've conducted 0 interviews, which is crazy. A big part of that is the bank will not sponsor anyone. So, the vast majority of the applicants we're getting require sponsorships, and the bank's just not going to do an H-1B. And then the 2 job postings are, at least for my side, are more business focused. They're not quantitative analysts. It's more credit risk, more business side. SQL helps. Obviously, strong Excel is a given. So that job should be a ton easier to fill. Oh, look at that. It's got a little scrape. I didn't even see that. So those, if they get approved, will be much easier to fill. All right, because that'll probably be, bachelor's and 3 years experience, probably type of function. Definitely more entry level. All right, most Flash is fast. I do like the application of Moz a lot better than Pure. Pure was a little grabby. It creates more room for error. Have leftover smudges or high spots, whatever. All right, here, I forgot. Let's do a hedge fund update. Okay, so if you recall, I've been saving a lot of my detailing money for a bit. I saved up enough cash. I was car shopping. I didn't want to, spend all my, accumulated car wash money on a car just to watch it go away. So last month I invested 25 grand into a crypto hedge fund. This is ran by a local company. And in my first month, I got prorated, but the fund did 6.09% gross profit for June. My percentage after fees and after my prorated was like 2.2%. So I netted $561. 2.2, you analyze that, 24%. I'm okay with that. Like that's a decent number. And then I did deposit $1,000. So my balance after fees, my balance is $26,550. But they pay out, or I'm not taking any withdrawals. I'm just gonna keep reinvesting. But I think the first or second day of the month statements are available, and they show performance. But that's hopefully, I can turn this car washing thing into something more than, blowing it on a car and watching it depreciate. But 26 grand, $600 a month doesn't really get me going. I need to get that balance up. I'm still debating on if it's worth focusing on the hedge fund or keep doing my ETFs I've been buying. We're trying to retire in 10 years. So that means making the decisions today to fund those bridge years, right? Because our 401ks, my work equity, our IRAs, we can't touch any of that. And I have a brokerage account that in fourth quarter last year, I pretty much sold everything right before the end of the year. And then the last 3 months, I was heavy cash for a while, like Jan, Feb of this year. And then I started buying into the dip, right? So markets dipped in April. So I've been dollar cost averaging and buying, income producing ETFs, NEOS funds, Yield Max, Roundhill. And I'm trying to, do the proof of concept to see if it's stable enough to, produce a viable bridge income. Because I don't want to touch that principal. Right now, the portfolio is yielding about 30% of distributions, which is a little aggressive, which is pretty aggressive. But the dollar amount's high. So I'm trying to take those distributions and put them into lower yielding, safer, still income focused ETFs, but more stable funds. And then same thing with this crypto hedge fund thing. If based off my projections, assuming, the most recent yield, if that carries out, that's the plan. I don't know if that's too much to share, but that's the stuff I like to think about. All right, finish the front end, do the roof, and that'll be most. The other good news is my Rupes HLR did not act up at all. No surging. I used both batteries a couple times, and everything was fine. I was telling myself if I was going to have problems with it this weekend, I was just going to order the Flex. It's going to be done with it. But I was looking at the Flex, start with just the DA, then ideally get the rotary if I switch over. But in all the video descriptions, at least as of late, I've been putting a detailed image 10% off code. So you can use that, get 10% off. And I actually looked at it at the affiliate account, and so I get a small commission for every purchase that's used with that, or that's made with that code. And to my surprise, this year, folks have spent, I think it's like $3,900 worth of product, and then I've earned a couple $100 off that. But so I use some of it, but I do have $164 in credit, just from folks, using that link, which is pretty cool, given how tiny my little audience is. or the number of views I get. So, you know, all that would go back into a new machine. You know, that one of those flex machines with batteries and such is, you know, even at my cost, I think it's like $700. All right, that's the Grand Highlander. We are all set. This thing turned out nice. So dropped off Thursday. I washed Thursday night. I polished Friday morning, mostly Friday night. Saturday was polishing and coating. But yeah, you know, nice little project. I'm about 10 hours in. You know, $1,000 is what I charge for this guy. And we're all done. So that's a wrap. Thanks for watching.